Battles with mental illness and a blacklisting for her sexuality, and Heche's sudden passing at 53 was only the final tragedy in the talented actress's life. Anne Heche had a difficult upbringing. Her parents, Donald and Nancy, raised her in poverty, and the family was constantly moving from place to place. Soon enough, the Heches were destitute and made homeless after getting evicted. In severe debt, Donald dabbled in get-rich-quick schemes and constantly lied to his wife about his supposed business deals. When Anne was 12, the family ended up living in one room after a church friend offered accommodation. At the time, Heche began providing for the family when she landed a theater gig, for which she was paid $100 a week. It was more money than her parents ever made. Now that Heche was the main provider in the household, they were able to move into an apartment, but the stress had taken its toll on the youngster. In an interview with CNN, Heche discussed the hopelessness in which she was raised, noting that she and her relatives had dreams and aspirations seemingly beyond their reach. Heche told CNN, "I wanted to be anything other than who I was, and so did my family. We were poor and we wanted to be rich. We were, homeless, and we pretended we had a home." Anne Heche's father, Donald, was secretly gay, but managed to hide his sexuality from his family until he became seriously ill. When Heche was 13, Donald died of AIDS. Her sister, Susan Bergman, wrote a book about her father's hidden double life entitled The Secret Life of an American Family. Speaking with the Chicago Tribune, Bergman said that although her dad was visibly ill and deteriorating, he did not inform his loved ones that he had AIDS until he was in the final throes of the disease. After speaking with Donald's acquaintances following his death in 1983, Bergman discovered that he was gay, something that her mom did not deny. Donald himself came from an abusive family devoid of love, a pattern that was sadly repeated when he and his wife Nancy started a family of their own. Speaking with The Advocate, Heche claimed that her father was schizophrenic and lived two completely different lives. Heche told the outlet, one as a heterosexual man who directed the choir and had a family, and one who went away. "My father was doing things that are attributed to schizophrenia, big business deals, delusions of grandeur." In her 2001 memoir, Call Me Crazy, Anne Heche alleged that her father began raping her from a young age, until shortly before his death when she was 13. As she revealed to ABC News, she believes the abuse began when she was a toddler, but she had repressed her trauma for years. Speaking with the New York Times, she explained that her mom, Nancy, was reportedly oblivious to the abuse. Accordingly, Heche suggested that Nancy herself was a victim of emotional abuse at the hands of her father, who deliberately isolated her from reality so that he could continue allegedly violating his daughter. Upon learning that AIDS claimed the life of her father, Heche became terrified that she may have caught it herself. Her father had already allegedly given her herpes, and she had a rash and sores. Heche told The Advocate, "I went crazy. I didn't talk to anybody about it. I escaped into my fantasy world." She stated that her father being closeted had nothing to do with his alleged pedophilia. Rather, she explained, her dad was a sexual deviant. If you or anyone you know has been a victim of sexual assault, help is available. Visit the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network website or contact RAIN's National Helpline at 1-800-656-HOPE. That's 1-800-656-4673. Anne Heche suffered from lifelong mental illness stemming from the alleged sexual abuse she was subjected to as a child. Although her health condition hasn't been specified, she's believed to have a personality disorder. During a psychotic break in August 2000, shortly after her split from Ellen DeGeneres, Heche knocked on a stranger's door in Fresno, California, declaring that she was from another planet and asked to use the shower. She was taken to the hospital when the homeowner, who soon recognized Heche from the big screen, called the authorities. When word got out, the actor was branded crazy by the tabloids, at a time when mental illness was poorly understood. However, Heche has hit back at the stigmatization of her personality disorder, telling CNN, "I believe that many people may think I went insane. I do not believe I am insane. I believe I went through a period of my life that was insane, and it lasted 31 years.
I believed I was from that world. I believed I was from another planet. I think I was insane."
In order to cope with her childhood trauma, Heche created an alter ego called Celestia, whom she said was both an extraterrestrial and a spiritual life form. As Heche explained to The Advocate, Celestia was the reason she survived in the face of overwhelming adversity. Heche revealed to the outlet, "She was the consistent love that allowed me to know that I could get to the other side of my abuse."
I feel like I've survived.
Following the Fresno incident, speculation grew as to whether Anne Heche was misusing drugs. At the time, notorious tabloid The National Enquirer alleged that Heche was responsible for Robert Downey Jr.'s relapse by supplying him with illicit substances, claims that she vehemently denied. Heche has been open about her history of drug and alcohol use, which she used as a means to block out her pain. The actress told ABC News, I drank, I smoked, I did drugs, I had sex with people. I did anything I could to get the shame out of my life. Heche attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and fell for a man who was also recovering from alcohol misuse, a relationship that she conceded was not healthy for her. In 2019, Heche's ex, James Tupper, accused her of misusing drugs. In court documents obtained by Radar following the couple's acrimonious split, Tupper attributed his ex's allegations of emotional abuse to her drug issues, claiming, "I truly do not understand this drama and hope it isn't linked to extended drug use." When Anne Heche and Ellen DeGeneres started dating in 1997, they were one of the first same-sex Hollywood couples to go public. Their romance, however, was met with controversy. Sadly, Heche was subjected to homophobia from her mother Nancy, who denounced her daughter's relationship with DeGeneres, telling CBN, "Like a betrayal of an unspoken vow, we will never have anything to do with homosexuals." Heche also faced reported homophobic abuse from the media, with some outlets inexplicably accusing her of dating DeGeneres as a publicity stunt. Hitting back against the claims, Heche explained that she fell deeply in love with DeGeneres, whom she saw as a refuge from the violence, trauma, and lies that blighted her childhood. Heche told the New York Times, "The impact that has on a child who grew up with such shame about who she was, who her father was, the disease he died of, the hatred my mother had for anything gay. And I got to participate in a loving, truthful celebration of the way I thought the world should be." As Heche explained to CNN, the media was preoccupied with her being in a relationship with a woman, whereas she was elated to have found someone who was seemingly the antithesis of the toxic people she grew up around. Heche told the news outlet, "It was not, 'Oh dear, a woman.' It's, 'Oh my God, there's a human being who is telling the truth.'" When she was in her 20s, Anne Heche dated well-known actor Steve Martin, who was decades older. The breakup was painful for Heche, who was reeling from childhood trauma. In an interview with ABC News, Heche reflected, "I wanted the love of an older man. I wanted comfort." Likewise, Heche described her 2000 split from Ellen DeGeneres as heartbreaking and miserable. As she told CNN, "I had withered myself into nothing. I was 90 pounds. I was standing outside, fell out of my face, broke my nose, and couldn't remember my name. But could remember that I had a girlfriend named Ellen DeGeneres. I was lost." She said that her childhood trauma had a detrimental effect on the relationship, with her bottling her turmoil inside for years.
Well, in a relationship, and I think many of us have them, you come to a fork in the road. What do you want and what do I want?
Thereafter, Heche had difficult relationships with husband Coleman Laffoon, with whom she had a toxic divorce, and boyfriend James Tupper, who apparently locked Heche out of her home and attempted to sell it without her consent following their breakup. Anne Heche claimed she was blacklisted from Hollywood due to her sexuality. Appearing on The Real Daytime, she said that she was canceled for being in a relationship with Ellen DeGeneres.
I got kicked out of my own movie premiere because they didn't want to get pictures of me with a woman.
Heche told Page Six, "I didn't do a studio picture for 10 years. I was fired from a $10 million picture deal and did not see the light of day in a studio picture." After going public with DeGeneres, studio execs apparently wanted to fire Heche from what would become one of her most famous roles, desert island rom-com 6 Days, 7 Nights.
I had told them that I was taking Ellen as my date, and I was told if I took Ellen, I would lose my Fox contract.
However, thanks to her co-star Harrison Ford, who called Heche saying that her personal life was no interest to him, she secured the flick. Her career decline was also compounded by stigma surrounding her history of mental illness. Although she appeared on TV shows like Men in Trees and Hung, Heche was habitually reduced to minor roles. In 2010, The Guardian attributed this decline to Hollywood's unease with Heche's history of mental illness. On August 5, 2022, Anne Heche was involved in 2 car accidents. First, she was spotted driving erratically before crashing into a garage. After speeding from the scene, she crashed into a person's home, causing a huge fire. Trapped in her car for over an hour as firefighters battled the blaze, Heche was eventually rescued and taken to the hospital. 4 days later, Heche's rep confirmed that, contrary to initial claims that the actor was stable and likely to make it, she was in a coma and hadn't regained consciousness since the day of the accident. However, on August 12th, it was reported that Heche had passed away from the injuries sustained in the car crash. 2 days later, on August 14th, the actor's rep Holly Baird confirmed that Heche had died after being taken off life support. Anne Heche was 53. If you or someone you know needs help with mental health, please contact the crisis text line by texting HOME to 741-741. Call the National Alliance on Mental Illness helpline at 1-800-950-NAMI, that's 1-800-950-6264, or visit the National Institute of Mental Health website.